think I'm just a 200-foot power forward that works on both sides of the ice. Likes to be in every single situation and just will help his teammates in any way he can.
How important do you think that is for players?
I think it's huge. Some guys will go, even now in the WHL, you see guys will go 2-3 years before they figure out, what kind of player they want to be. So I think the earlier you can figure out, who you are and carve that role for yourself, it's only going to help you that much more.
That was fifth-year WHL veteran and current captain of the Victoria Royals, Reggie Newman. And you are listening to the Up My Hockey Podcast with Jason Podolin.
Just watch me now.
Welcome to Up My Hockey with Jason Podolin, where we deconstruct the NHL journey, discuss what it takes to make it, and have a few laughs along the way. I'm your host, Jason Podolin, a 31st overall draft pick who played 41 NHL games, but thought he was destined for 1,000. Learn from my story and those of my guests. This is a hockey podcast about reaching your potential. Hello there. Welcome back to the Up My Hockey Podcast with Jason Podolin. I am your host, Jason Podolin, and today we are speaking with Reggie Newman. Reggie Newman is probably not a household name for anyone outside of the British Columbia or Western Hockey League circuit, but I felt that he was going to be a great guest because he is now the captain of the Victoria Royals. He's played in the league this is starting his 5th year of the WHL, and he had 2 high-profile players leave his team to join the NCAA with the rule change. Which has changed, the landscape of their team. And I wanted to speak with him about what he sees being, changing in the WHL and how it affected his team. Great opportunity to talk about leadership and how he feels about leadership and why he was able to receive the captaincy, and also life of 5 years in the WHL. So Reggie was able to come on as I talk early in the discussion. We have his father Mike and I played together in Penticton for the Panthers way back, I think in 1991. Gary Davidson, who's currently the general manager of the Calgary Hitmen, was our coach at that time, and Mike lives down the road from me in Kamloops, and I see him from time to time in arenas. So I felt that Reggie would be a great guest. Reggie came on right away and did a great job. So I think that there's definitely a lot here in this conversation, especially for maybe younger athletes that are wanting to play major junior, whether that's out east, OHL, QMJHL, or here in Western Canada with the Western Hockey League. So he is an elder statesman. He is a power forward of the league. Another thing that I wanted to talk to him about, which we did, how hockey just seems to have less and less physicality in it these days. Reggie is he's not a fighter, but he will fight. He loves to hit. He says in the program that's kind of his favorite thing about hockey is that aspect, being able to hit a D-man on the forecheck. And there's less and less players like him out there. But the irony is as you see with the NHL draft, and as you see with the Stanley Cup champions of the last few years, these are big, heavy, hard to play against teams. They're not a bunch of crash and dashers and kind of Russian Red Army style anymore. Obviously, there's tons of skill out there, but these guys are guys that are hard to play against. And when you watch the draft this last year, lots of bigger bodies are getting taken, bigger, heavier bodies, especially the D side of the puck. So it is a copycat league. It seems like the Stanley Cup champions have been heavier, have been abrasive, have been more physical. And I do think that there is a place for Reggie Newman type players in the pro game still. And potentially, my prediction is that we are going to be seeing more of them than we maybe have in years past as we start to figure it out that this is a competitive advantage. Yes, you still need to skate, of course. The game has gotten fast. But as far as the high end skill that everyone's been chasing. I'm not sure how necessary that is in a third, fourth line role. I think that you need to have the skill to move the puck down the ice. You need to have the hockey IQ to be able to play the game. But I would prioritize some toughness and some meanness and some willingness to do some hard things out there on my third and fourth line. If I was a WHL GM, and if I was also GM of a pro league, and I believe I'm not the only one that feels that way. So, just a little encouragement to maybe some younger players out there, players who are in juniors and want to become pros, is just really, if that is you, if that speaks to you, somebody that likes to play physical, someone that wants to get in the forecheck, someone that takes pride in blocking the shots and getting the puck out on the half wall and being mean. That's a good thing, and I believe that there's a place for you, and just own that identity. Obviously, always try and increase your skill set, but be valuable with where you're valuable and where you see where you have fun with it. And I think that there's going to be a spot that you're going to carve out, because not not as many players are willing to do it. So, with that being said, I thought Reggie did an absolute great job. And lots to learn from the captain of the Victoria Royals. So why don't we dive into that conversation? Here is Reggie Newman, captain of the Victoria Royals. All right, so here we are with the captain of Victoria Royals, Reggie Newman. Thanks for joining us today, Reg.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. I'm really excited.
Yeah, I appreciate it. For those of you who don't know, not that Reggie and I are tight buddies or anything, but I know Mike Newman, who is his father, from way back. I played junior at 15 in Penticton, and Mike was on that team, and Mike and I hung out quite a bit that year, and as it happens, from Kamloops, end up having boys who are both 09s, and met you, Reggie, through McGuire and that connection. So awesome to be following you and your career to date, and shot some hoops in your house and the whole 9 yards. So it's awesome to have that come full circle. What do you think that your dad's, maybe we'll just start there with Numi, your old man, Numi Sr. Do you think that his involvement in the game was something that brought you to the game?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he's been coaching me, from the time I was 4 or 5 years old up until my Bantam first year. So I think he's had a huge influence on, who I am as a player and a person, and definitely have a lot to thank for him for who I became as a player.
Cool. Do you remember going to the rink for the first time, or wanting to play hockey? Reason I ask is because my oldest, some people are shocked. We were trying to essentially be a ski family. My wife wasn't really into hockey, and I'd been away from it for a while. And geez, Hudson just did not want to ever leave the rink. And he's like, I want to play in a real team. I want to, this and that. So he brought me back to the game, which I'm super thankful for. But do you remember, was it kind of your idea, or was it Mike's idea to get you there in the first place?
It was, both my parents, my mom and my dad. We just went to a little public skate and tried on the wheels for the first time, and just kind of fell in love with the game right from there. And been going ever since.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm going to jump to Bantam, just because that's when kind of, not that hockey starts, but that, to me, that's when you kind of start deciding if you want to be a hockey player or just play hockey, essentially, right? Is the way that I put it. And with you were in Yale, I believe, right? With your for your draft year. What was that decision like for you guys to leave Kamloops, the minor hockey system there, and join the CSSHL and go to Yale?
Yeah, it was not an easy process, I won't lie to you. But we had a spring hockey coach, Brad Bowen. I'm not sure if you know that name, but
he's still there.
Yeah, he's a great coach. So he kind of brought me and 6 other guys from Kamloops along the way. So that definitely helped the transition a lot easier, going in with a lot of buddies you already know. But yeah, Brad was kind of the front runner on bringing all of us into Yale, and obviously it worked out pretty well for all of us going forward.
Yeah, that's cool. What were you in a billet house that year, or did mom or dad come with you?
No, I moved into a billet house. I kind of knew the kid from before, Eric Solid. He plays, he plays junior A now. So I knew him from before from spring hockey, but it was definitely still an experience moving into a new billet family for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, why don't you talk about that a little bit? Because I try and open that can of worms, because we all want to be hockey players, but there's a lot that goes on outside of the rink to be playing the best that you can. And sometimes that transition into into a new house, I mean, even going to a new city, all the rest that comes with the new school and all that. Like, talk about that transition for you as a 14-year-old or 13-year-old. I don't know the first time you went. Like, what was that like?
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was obviously a lot, but obviously my billet family did a really good job welcoming me in right away. There was a lot of guys that lived pretty close together, so we'd hang out every day after school. We'd all drive to the rink together, stuff like that. So just seeing my friends a lot, it made it a lot easier and made me pretty comfortable right away.
What was the biggest piece of the challenge, if there was one that you remember? Was it like, it sounds like you had some kind of built-in friendships there, so the transition maybe to the dressing room wasn't so hard. Was school any different? Was the, living away from home, the food, like, was there anything that was that gave you a little bit of a difficult time at the beginning?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, obviously, you don't see your parents every night when you go to bed, right? So, that was a little bit of an adjustment for me. Obviously, I'd FaceTime them, once or twice a day, but when you don't get to see your mom or your dad every single day, it's definitely a bit of an adjustment.
Right. How was the transition to knowing that people are watching you and going to the games and seeing all the WHL scouts around there? Can you put yourself back in that 14-year-old brain and how that impacted you?
Yeah, obviously it's pretty exciting. Scouts starting to come the first game of the season, and then as you move along, you start to go to tournaments and stuff like that. There's more and more. So I think it's obviously pretty intense, but it's definitely a lot of fun as well. And you kind of embrace it a little bit more, and I think that kind of shows the player you are.
Right. I think Brad is good. At least he seems. I've never been in a locker room with him, and I've never really had a full length discussion with him. But just watching the way his teams play, it seems that he can communicate the idea of team quite well. Because I find a lot of teams in that league turn into a bunch of individuals because they are trying to be noticed, or they're trying to be the guy. And a lot of times, these players end up not looking very good because they're not being good hockey players. Did Brad have any impact on that with that draft year of yours?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he's an honest coach. He doesn't beat around the bush. He knows the kind of player you are, and he'll tell you right to your face. So I think it's just, we had a great group that year, and everyone kind of bought into, the kind of player they should be. And, we kind of worked really well together. Obviously, we didn't get to play in the championship because of COVID, but, our team was primed and ready to go for that final tournament.
Right. So you talk about player identity. That's great. Let's start with the type of player you are. That's a question that I know you got asked during your draft year, and probably still continue to get asked. Scouts love to know your self-assessment. So let's give you another kick at the cat. What type of player is Reggie Newman?
Yeah, I think I'm just a 200-foot power forward that works on both sides of the ice. Likes to be in every single situation and just will help his teammates in any way he can.
You talked about U15 and Brad helping you guys understand who you are. Is that when you started to know who you were, or did you get a little firmer identity of what that is?
Yeah, I'd say, like a year or so before that, my dad, he definitely helped me kind of carve my role a little bit. He was the same kind of player I was. So as soon as Bantam hockey hit and hitting was allowed, that was kind of when I kind of figured out the kind of player I wanted to be.
That's cool. How important do you think that is for players?
I think it's huge. Some guys will go, even now in the WHL, you see guys will go 2-3 years before they figure out, what kind of player they want to be. So I think the earlier you can figure out, who you are and carve that role for yourself, it's only going to help you that much more.
Can you dive into that a little bit more? Like, that is something that I really try to talk to the players that I work with. And generally speaking, like, that is one of the biggest hurdles for them, is one, not to put a ceiling on anybody, because I don't believe in that, right? But you do need to understand how you're valuable, right? To the team and to yourself, right? So can you just maybe expand on that, and maybe even as your role as captain now, like how important is that for a team and for an individual player to advance?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there's 4 lines. Not everyone's going to be a top 6 player. So, if you're in that bottom 6, you might not be a goal scorer. You got to check, you got to grind the other team down and block shots, create energy. So I think it's, carving that role out early. That's going to help you, jump up in the lineup or stay in the lineup if you're a younger guy and stuff like that. And then, leadership wise, it's kind of just, you're not telling the guy, what kind of player they are, but it's kind of, pushing them a little bit more to work on those things if they are in the bottom 6 or in and out of the lineup. And it's just kind of motivating them to, be the best player they can be.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I think it simplifies the game too. Like when you have a couple key points that that you're valuable with and can impact a hockey game, like, and that's your focus point, like the other stuff comes, and whatever that other stuff is, like we love talking about top six, bottom six, but even guys that are in the top six, if we're talking major junior hockey, let's be honest, if you're not scoring 30 plus goals, a point a game plus, you're probably not going to be a top six guy anywhere pro, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, even like that sort of middle ground when, okay, maybe you are in a top six role, like, not that have to be running around hitting guys, but you got to be working on the details of the game that you're going to have to work on at that next level. And I think that's the part that a lot of guys miss. And then when they show up and it's like, okay, now I actually have to get the puck out on the wall, like 80% of the time, and that really hasn't been in their wheelhouse, and then they get stuck. But that's awesome that you were able to, figure that out for you early on and kind of just go all in with it, because I do think, watching you play, and I haven't watched you a million times, but I definitely notice when you're on the ice when you do play, and I think there's less guys in the league that want to play that way. Can you speak to that, maybe just major junior hockey and like the state of it right now when it comes to physicality, even if you want to get into fighting, like how is it right now, and has it changed at all since you've been in the league?
Yeah, I think it's changed a little bit for sure. When I was 16, there was definitely a lot of guys willing to fight every single night. And, it's definitely a little bit different now being an older guy. Obviously, you don't want to beat up on a 16-year-old or 17-year-old now. So it's definitely a little bit harder to find your fights or pick your fights. But obviously there's a time and place for that depending on the situation of the game. So it's definitely a little bit different, but there's still obviously a time and place for that.
Do you think it's going away? Like, I mean, even if you've seen it in 4 or 5 years, like what happens in another 4 or 5 years? Do you think this is the way of the dinosaur, or what do you think?
It might be, yeah. I know there'd be a fight almost every single night when I was 16, and now it's, I think we've played 3-4 games now, and there's only been one fight. So it's definitely a dying art, but it's definitely a part of the game that needs to stick around for sure.
Right. Well, what do you think that is in your mind? Like, I don't even want to lead you with that, but like, what would have led to a fight before doesn't seem to lead to a fight now, or maybe there's less potentially confrontations. I mean, I'm not even sure. Yeah, I'll let you handle that. What do you think? Well, what is the difference?
I just think, back then it was guys trying to prove themselves, wanting to be the toughest guy on the ice. And now it's not the same anymore. Guys really are trying to pick their spots, because I think every player is so skilled now and so important to their team that, they can't afford to sit in the box for 5+ minutes. So I think there's just, it depends on, if a guy gets ran over from behind, obviously you're going to step up for your teammate, but guys aren't, squaring up at center ice or dropping the gloves right off the face-off anymore. It's a little bit different.
I had a conversation with a scout the other day, and I was like, geez, I'd like to be a GM right now, because my philosophy, I think if you actually had somewhat of like a 90s, let's say early 2000s style team, like where you had big guy, you have to be able to skate now 100%, but if you had big guys that wanted to just run guys over and just be assholes, and I think that you would scare the hell out of a lot of teams, like a third and a fourth line that was their interest, and still have your top end guys that want to put the pucks in the net. But I think a lot of guys would just go away and be like, another game tomorrow night, this one's okay. Do you think so too?
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
So that's what I mean. And again, I'm not trying to create an era of pugilism, but I guess what I mean, like guys like yourself that just are willing to hit at least, right, and are willing to compete. Like, you're no fun to play against, right? It's not an easy night. And I think that the easier the game gets, that's why I think at some point it is going to come back a bit, because it's going to be a competitive advantage at some point, right? That it's going to get too soft, that if you bring in some muscle and bring in some meat, like guys aren't going to know what to do with it. And all of a sudden they're going to start winning hockey games. But there's just, like I said, there's less of those guys out there that are willing to play like that. So who knows which way it's going to go. This break in the action is brought to you by Iron Ghost Construction, platinum sponsor of the UMH 68 and friend of the Up My Hockey podcast. Iron Ghost has provided player scholarships at all 4 UMH 68 events, helping young athletes chase their dreams on and off the ice. Iron Ghost is where quality and safety lead every build. Since 2014, Iron Ghost has delivered quality, safe construction from structure to mechanics, start to finish. Iron Ghost, solid, skilled, and proven. A proud supporter of youth sports in their hometown of Vernon, BC, and beyond, Iron Ghost is committed to building more than just structures. They are building futures. Big fan of Iron Ghost Construction and the McKechnies. Here in Vernon, they have been a part of the Vernon Viper organization. They have been a part of youth sports here, whether it be lacrosse or Vernon minor hockey, the spring programs, my spring program, the UMH Compete, and also in the Western Canadian event of the UMH 68, which is coming to potentially a state near you. So stay tuned for that. The UMH 68, Iron Ghost has been an awesome sponsor of them. So we want to support what they're doing here in the oil fields, in forestry, in the mines. They build structures. If you need them, they will do it for you. And I hope that this word of what they're doing and how they're supporting gets out there, and you can support Iron Ghost Construction as they supported the young athletes here in Western Canada.
Yeah.
I want to talk to you about your 16-year-old year, and so you got drafted. Where did you get drafted again? What round was that?
The fourth round.
Fourth round, right? So Bantam fourth rounder. That's right. Yeah, you got really close. Like you and Hudson, my oldest there, got drafted really close to the same spot. And generally speaking, a fourth rounder doesn't make the WHL as a 16-year-old. I mean, just as a rule of thumb, right? Usually the top two guys maybe will. You end up making the Victoria Royals as a 16-year-old. Talk about that experience, and how do you think you ended up carving out a spot for yourself on that team?
Yeah, going into that summer, my mentality was just, I'm going to make this team. I was just telling myself every day, you're going to make this team. And so that was my mentality going into summer. And, I just worked at it every single day, got into camp. I was told when I got to camp that, the plan was for me to go back to U18. But, my goal was still the same. I wanted to make the team. So, I thought I showcased myself pretty well in camp, and then got to play a couple preseason games and did all right in those as well. And went in, met with the GM, and he said, "You're sticking around here to start the year." And after that, it was just kept playing and stuck around for the whole season, and the rest was history.
Did you have a moment, like generally speaking, in that storyline, right, of somebody making it unexpectedly? There's usually a moment, right? Whether it be a shot block or a big goal in overtime, or who knows, maybe a fight or a hit or something. Like, did you have a thing where everyone had to be like, "Oh, I noticed this guy"?
Yeah, I think it was my first preseason game. We were playing in Kelowna, and I was trying to be the most physical guy on the ice. So I was finishing every single check and just getting in the older guys' faces and pissing them off and stuff like that. And I think that was the moment I realized I really could stick around and play in the league this year.
That's awesome. What was the impact like? Like, how was the reception from those older guys that you were bumping? Talk to me about that.
Well, it was a bit of a crazy year that year, because I think we had 3 or 4 16-year-olds on that team. So there was a lot of older guys, that ended up getting sent home, which was obviously tough. But I think they handled it really well, and the rest of the guys handled it pretty well, and they obviously embraced us as young guys, and it was a really good group that year. Obviously, we didn't finish out that year the way we wanted to. We missed the playoffs by 1 point, but it was a really fun year for sure.
Yeah, that was wild, because I mean, maybe it's a good time to get into that, because that was a bit of a surprise that year, right? Because the team wasn't doing well, hadn't been into the playoffs. All of a sudden, you get a younger group in, sort of a little bit of a remake, and you get closer than I think a lot of teams expected you to be, right? Or a lot of people expected you to be. Mm-hmm. And then kind of a little bit of a backpedal again the next year, and then you start building. I mean, then you essentially have a wagon last year. Like, talk to me about just the process that you've seen internally there with the Royals.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a roller coaster. Obviously the 16 year we missed the playoffs by 1 point, and then the 17 year was definitely a hard year. It was a lot of new faces on that team, a lot of young guys. So, our goal was kind of to rebuild the culture a little bit more, and make it like a place you want to come to the rink every single day and get better. So we went through that our 17 year. My 18 year, it got a little bit better. We made the playoffs, and then obviously last year we were a really good team, but we fell short in the second round to Spokane. So it's just continuing to do that even now into my 20-year-old year. Even with a bunch of new faces, we're still trying to build that culture and make it just a great place to play hockey.
Yeah, that's wild. I gotta be honest, my heart kind of ripped out for your organization. Not that I have any allegiance to it at all, but you have a good year and you have a good team and you have some stars, which the Royals hadn't really had, in the past. And now you got, Keaton Verhoff and you're, oh my gosh, drawing a blank on your forward that left.
Cole Reshny.
Yeah. And Reshny. And they make this decision in the offseason with the rule change, like to go, like two big pieces that, I thought was coming back. And I think a lot of people thought were coming back and obviously make your team, got some high end pace with those guys. Like how was that for you now as the captain to hear about those decisions? And did you know about them before that they were even announced?
Yeah, it was obviously, really hard to hear because, I was really close with those guys, but obviously super excited for them. That's a great opportunity for both of them to develop a little bit more. But now it's just, we're focused on our team and we're trying to get as best we can this year. But obviously we're still staying in contact with all those guys that went to school and, hoping the best for them either way and definitely staying in contact with them.
Right. That's cool. And of course, I wouldn't say of course, but, no ill will, you're buddies with them. Like they make a decision. When it comes to you and thinking about the decision, because a lot of guys do have decisions, like why do you think, in your opinion, you said maybe a better chance for them to develop? Well, why do you think that? Like, why is that your choice of words on that decision?
Yeah, I think, obviously you're not playing as many games. So there's just more time to work out. Obviously there's more time to recover your body. So when you are playing those games, you're always at 100%. You're always ready to go. Whereas in the Western League, you're playing 3-4 games in a week. So your recovery is not as high. You may not be working out as much, but at the same time saying that, I think the Western League does a great job building you for that pro game where you're playing 60, 70, 80 games in a year. So there's pros and cons, on both sides of the thing. And I see where both sides come from for sure.
Right. Yeah. It's going to be really interesting to watch the progress of everybody, right? Because I don't think there's going to end up being one path. There might be like a path, as far as like how guys generally do it. But to your point, there's just, different maturity levels. There's different physical maturity levels. There's different runways that guys are going to require to be pro. And yeah, so I think there's still going to be some decisions to be made, that it's not just because you can play in the NCAA that you should, for lack of a better way to put it. Because but it's the Wild West right now, right? With everyone leaving and guys coming in, even like the show guys coming in, the Hurlberts of the world that come to the WHL now, right? As a decision. Did you consider the NCAA at all? I heard that maybe you had a couple offers potentially as well, but you opted to stay home.
Yeah, I had a couple offers. It was, a really hard decision for me and my family, but obviously Victoria's been, unreal to me and it's been pretty special to play here. So I thought, playing a full 5 seasons here that's pretty special. Not a lot of guys get to do that. So I thought coming back to Victoria was the best option for me. Get another full season under my belt, and then whether next year I go to college or try to sign a pro contract, because that's ultimately my goal. So we'll see where things go from here. But I'm super excited to be back in Victoria.
Loyalty, what a word.
Yeah,
good for you. No, I like that. I don't know, and then the other thing is and I know guys don't think about that because I sure as heck never thought about it. But when I was in Spokane for 4 years. When I got drafted by Florida, I thought that I was going to be a Florida Panther and retire at 32, and that's the end of it. But then as soon as I turned pro, it was 2, 3. My first year pro, I played on 4 different pro teams. Yeah, that's NHL minors traded NHL minors, right? 4 teams in one season, from not getting traded at all, and I'm like, holy smoke! So it is nice to have that advantage and to choose that choice. I'm proud of you for doing that. 5 years in one spot, it maybe. Life might not be so stable down the road. Might as well take care of it now, and especially if you enjoy where you're at. What how does the league feel this year? Does it feel different? Does it feel easier, harder, the same? I'm just wondering, with some of these guys gone, some new guys coming in, how do you think it's feeling?
Yeah, it's definitely a little bit different for sure. Being being the oldest guy of the bunch, but no, there's still a ton of skill in this league. It's still very fast paced. It's, it doesn't feel any different than it did last year. It's just a little bit different being the oldest guy here. So it's definitely, the same game. It's still a lot of fun, and every night's a grind for sure.
Awesome. Talk to the people listening here, and just because people maybe don't know that in the Western League you're allowed three 20-year-olds, and it's generally a 19-year-old league. So there's lots of 19-year-olds that don't move on to pro, and then need to have a place to play. So securing a spot as a 20-year-old is not an easy thing. Can you just talk about what that even means to you, and what you feel that that title requires of you with the group this year?
Yeah, it's obviously pretty special. It's, not everyone gets to be a 20-year-old in the Western Hockey League, so it's definitely cool. But with that, it comes a lot of responsibility. So, we're the leaders on this team. We've been in the league the longest, so it's showing the young guys the ropes and getting everyone comfortable and excited to be here. And like I said before, just continuing to build that culture here in Victoria is huge for all three of us, and just making sure everyone has just a great season.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So with that C on your chest, was that something? Well, how'd you find out? Maybe I should ask you that first. How'd you find out you were the captain?
Yeah, my coach James Patrick, he called me towards the end of summer, about mid-August, and he said, are you coming back? And I said, yeah, I'm super excited to. And he said, would you like to be our captain? I said, I'd be honored. And that's kind of how I found out. I called my dad right away, and he was super excited for me. And yeah, that's how I found out.
That's cool. So with that title, coming back in, how does that, if at all, change your approach, change what you do, what you're looking at? How has that changed your world, if at all?
I think, I'm still the same player, still the same person. And so I just kind of, stick to what I've been doing ever since I was 16. I think, the only thing is there's a lot more eyes on you, and, you're expected to lead. So I think for me, I'm more of just leading by example. I'll say something if something needs to be said, but it's just being the same player that I've been, 16 through 19, and just continuing to do that in my 20-year-old year.
Yeah, I had a Facebook post or an Instagram post the other day about leadership, and I said that a lot of guys get it mixed up. Like you gotta lead yourself first, and foremost, and make sure your house is in order, and then with that example, then you can potentially lead others, right? So the game side of it, I like hearing you say that, that you lead by example. I think that there is, at your level, probably a personal skill, an interpersonal, let's say, skill requirement of being a captain, like maybe being aware of others in the room, right? Like inclusivity type stuff. Is anyone left out? Do you feel that responsibility to try and be a little bit of a caretaker now with that C, and just make sure there's a collective unity amongst you?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of talk about it as a leadership group. So we try and have conversations with everybody every single day. Just a 5-minute conversation, see how everybody's doing, and just kind of get everybody involved. Whether it's in the dressing room, at the sewer, and playing sewer, up in the gym, wherever it might be. It's just making sure everyone's involved and everybody's comfortable and just happy to be at the rink is probably the biggest thing for sure.
What does things outside the rink look like now? And I'm thinking this more from like the phone communication aspect and buses. Like I've had some discussions with some guys that are on buses now that were from my age, right? Like coaches, and it's super quiet, and there's not really, like, generally there's not many card tables going on or whatever. Just like wondered, like, what does that social structure look like, and how do you connect outside of the game in 2025?
Yeah, like, I mean, after practice, like even today, half the team went for lunch. We all went to Chipotle. So a lot of the older guys, we always try to do something after practice or whatever. But obviously the younger guys, they have to go to school every day, which is tough for them. But yeah, the older guys, we always try to get together. And then on the bus, we love playing cards, or we'll all play like the same game on our phone if we are just all on our phones. But we try to stay connected as much as we can, and talk as much as we can on the bus. It's never quiet on our bus. There's lots going on for sure.
Oh, that's awesome. I love hearing that. There's cards going to be played. I love it. I thought that was a dying breed. That's good. I was just thinking about that. Like the card games for me was like, I don't know. It was just fun, because you're always shooting the shit. You're always like you're in front of each other. Like the game itself is fine, but it's just that I don't know. It's just that community of what cards does for you. That's
No,
exactly.
exactly.
So
Just
I'm
talking as
yeah,
much
I'm
as
glad to
you
hear
can.
that's still going. That's still going on. Let's rewind a little bit. So, from 20-year-old captain, you were a 17-year-old player that had aspirations and hopes of getting drafted. Talk to me about the draft year and sort of what happened after. And I want to get into the rookie camps and I really like your story because you want to be a pro, maybe not the conventional way that everyone's dreaming of as a 17-year-old, right? To get drafted and then sign a contract. So just talk to me about that first year and we'll go from there. Like how was that with you and what was your experience like?
Yeah, obviously, it was a bit of a tough year that year, but I think we had a good young group, so it was fun coming to the rink every day with a bunch of guys your own age. So we definitely made the most out of it. But yeah, it was a tough year for sure. But obviously our draft year is super important. Obviously you look up in the stands, you see a ton of scouts there, so makes you a little bit nervous, but you definitely got to embrace that because it happens for everybody. So
Right.
yeah, tough year. And then obviously we get to the draft and unfortunately didn't hear my name called, but I was lucky enough to get a call from Arizona and they invited me to their development camp. So that was definitely pretty cool for sure.
Yeah, awesome. So with that in the draft, so what was your expectation going in?
Yeah, I thought there was maybe an outside chance that I could get drafted, but I definitely wasn't expecting to or anything like that. But obviously, still watched the whole thing, and lots of my buddies ended up getting drafted. So obviously, super happy for those guys. And I wasn't expecting too much. And yeah, obviously, like I said, I didn't hear my name called, but lucky enough, I got to go to development camp with Arizona.
That's sweet. So as far as the lead up to the draft, that you had some questionnaires, I assume you had some interviews or your agents were talking to some guys. How was that experience?
Yeah, that was definitely pretty nerve wracking. You hop on a Zoom call with two, three, four guys, and they're just blasting the questions. But like I said, just embrace that and answer them the best you can and be honest because they're pretty good at their job and they get paid big bucks to know if you're lying or not. So just be honest with them, and yeah, it was definitely a good experience for sure.
This episode is powered by BioSteel, main sponsor of the UMH68 and friend of the Up My Hockey podcast. BioSteel is the hydration choice trusted by pros and parents alike. And now it's even easier to grab. The new BioSteel Variety Pack is available at Costco, Canada. You get 24 bottles, 3 flavors, Rainbow Twist, Blue Raspberry, and Black Cherry. All with no sugar, no caffeine, and no junk. Just clean, effective hydration that works as hard as you do. Now, I don't know if BioSteel is available at Costco in the U.S., but if you are in Canada, by all means, go out and grab some. And if you aren't getting it at Costco in the States, you can definitely get BioSteel at biosteel.com or biosteel.ca. They do have ongoing programs there, and as an affiliate of them, I definitely use their product. We use it all the time here at the house. They've been great to work with as far as from a promotional standpoint, supporting the UMH 68, and why not support somebody that supports youth hockey in that capacity? I think it's a great option. Hydration is important, and BioSteel does their part. So go out there and grab your BioSteel today. So you get the call. Arizona says, "Hey, come to our rookie camp." Talk to me about what that was all about, and your first time in an NHL environment.
Yeah, it was really cool. I was lucky enough. My teammate Justin Kipke, he was drafted by Arizona, so it was nice to know somebody right away when I was there. But obviously, the speed is a lot quicker than the WHL, so that was definitely a big adjustment right away. But it was definitely a lot of fun. You see how the pros work out, how they train, how they operate, and it was definitely a really good learning experience for me.
So as far as pros go, that would be the older guys in that camp had some pro experience. That's how those things work?
Yeah, so there's that, and then even some of the NHL guys, they were still there in the summer training, so you get to see some of those guys as well. Yeah.
Awesome. So what was that like? So that pathway now, so you going there, you're under. I mean, I guess the goal of getting either drafted the next year, or could you have been signed that first year or not? Like, how does that work? I don't even know the way that works. If you're an unsigned 17-year-old and you go to a rookie camp, can you get signed out of there, or do you have to wait for the draft?
I think you can get signed right away. I'm pretty sure. I'm not entirely sure either, but I'm pretty sure you can. Yeah.
Right. I think generally speaking, the NHL guys would be waiting because even like usually they only sign their top 2 picks essentially,
Yeah.
right? Or
Yeah.
3 picks, right out of the draft. So they'd probably be waiting to see you another year, draft you, and then they have 2 years to decide whether they want to sign you or not. So probably lengthens their runway a bit. You'd have to have an amazing rookie camp, I think, as an unsigned guy or an undrafted guy, to get signed. So in essence, you're trying to make a good impression. Like, did you change your mindset at all in that camp to your one as a 16-year-old trying out for the Royals?
No, it was kind of the same thing. Obviously you're not going to make the team out of development camp, but they brought you there for a reason. So just kind of trying to stick to the player you are and play to your strengths was definitely my goal going into that. And I think I showcased myself pretty well there as well. And I had a great time there too. So that was kind of the biggest thing for me.
So that rookie camp, and then usually there's, I don't know, they call that, I guess, development camp. Most guys do, right? The one like right after the draft. And then before main camp starts, they'll have a rookie camp sometimes, right? Where they'll bring guys in. So you went to the development camp after the draft, or did you go to rookie camp before main camp?
I went to both. So I was there, and then I did rookie. Well, there's like a tournament. So we were in Vegas my first year, and we got to play against a couple different teams, which was an even better experience. Playing against those guys, it was definitely fast paced and super physical, but that was a really good experience for sure.
That's cool. Okay, so then you actually, you checked the box, and you went to development camp and you did well enough there to get invited back to the rookie camp, because not everybody that goes to development camp goes to rookie camp, right?
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. Oh, so that was awesome. So you made a good impression, and then you went back the next year to Arizona again, right? Didn't you go back the following year as well?
Yeah, so that was actually the year they changed from Arizona and they went to Utah. So I went to Utah that second year, and it was the same kind of thing, same group of guys. So it was definitely more comfortable that second year, knowing more faces. But yeah, it was great. We got to go to development camp, see all the new facilities in Utah, which was pretty special, and then was lucky enough to get invited back again and go to rookie tournament there as well.
That's cool. So was that a decision for you? Just, I'm asking this more for the guys out there, parents maybe having to go down that road, dealing with agents and stuff. But was Utah the only one that called, or was there other teams that said, hey, we'd like you to come out, and then now you have to make a decision?
There was a few other teams, so it was a bit of a decision. There was a bit of a process that went into it, but ultimately Utah was the choice. It was cool to go back to the same place again. So that was the best choice for me, and my agent helped me make that decision as well. So yeah, that was the best choice for me.
Well, I think that's, and I guess as far as, I don't know what the backroom discussions were like, but you would assume that the loyalty of that probably matters, for you, and if they're still interested, like give you another look, and and kind of grow where you're planted, I guess, is maybe like the way I would put it. What was the feedback, if at all, from Utah leaving? Like, did they give you a game plan? Do they tell you how you did? Is there anything for you to work on? Like any of those things? Are they very communicative with you leaving after that second year?
Yeah, they were awesome. They gave me some really good feedback, and obviously they said they were really impressed with how I played and stuff like that. And they were going to watch me going forward. And yeah, they gave me really good feedback, and I definitely took that into that would have been my 18-year-old or 19-year-old year. And I kind of ran with that and definitely worked on those things they told me to. And yeah, that helped my game, tremendously.
That's cool. And then, so this last year, I think you were in Winnipeg though, correct?
Yeah, I was in Winnipeg for rookie tournament. Yeah.
Cool. And how did that go?
It was pretty special. We got to play at the Bell Center in front of a sold out crowd, which was, once in a lifetime experience. It was pretty surreal for sure.
That's wild. So then, was that another decision then, like to go to Winnipeg instead of going back to Utah this year?
Yeah. So, in the summer, I actually went to Toronto's development camp, had meetings with them after, and, they decided to go in a different direction. And unfortunately, I wasn't invited back for rookie tournament. And then a couple weeks later, Winnipeg called me and they asked if I'd like to go to rookie tournament with them? And I said, absolutely. So that's kind of how it worked out. And then, a week or two later, a couple other teams called, and I said, yeah, sorry, I'm already going with Winnipeg. So that's kind of how that process went that year. But, it changes from year to year. And I was obviously super excited. I got to go with Winnipeg for sure.
Right. Any, who are some of the big name guys that were in that game?
Well, we played against Demidov, which was crazy. He every time he touched the puck, the stadium just erupted, which was definitely cool to see for sure.
How good is he?
He's special. I think he's going to be a top player in the NHL one day. He's legit for sure.
And how old is that guy?
He's an 06, so he'd be 19 this year.
Wow.
It's crazy.
Yeah, because he stands out, even from a skating, puck handling side. Even I watched a couple of the games last year when he came in, and he looked pretty special. I didn't realize he was that young. So he's got a lot of runway. Wow, that's crazy. They got somebody special there. Did he do anything cool that game?
He danced about 3, 4, 5 different guys. He scored a highlight reel goal with 3 minutes left to tie the game at 3, and the game went to overtime, and we ended up winning, which was pretty cool. But
that's nice.
Yeah, he's special for sure.
Awesome. Anything for you? Any fights? Any bumps? Any hits? Any goals?
Yeah, I was just like I said before, trying to play to my game and my identity, and I was lucky enough to get an assist on the third goal of the game, which was pretty cool. But I was trying to be as physical as I could be out there for sure.
That's awesome. So what's the plan this year? You're back for a 5th year. You say Victoria has a strong team. You're off to an amazing start, by the way. Didn't even talk about that. You mean from a points perspective. So here we are talking about the physical side of the game, and you're top 5 in scoring right now, I think. So is that something that you kind of want to grow and hone a little bit for you as as a personal development tool for you this year to try and get some more minutes there in the PP and produce a little bit more offensively?
Yeah, I think it definitely just comes with age as well. Knowing the league a little bit more, it definitely helps point wise. But obviously, my 2 line mates as well have been unreal to start the season, so that definitely helps for sure. So just continuing to do that going forward, and trying to have the best season I can is huge for me.
Awesome. Let's give them a shout out. Who are you playing with right now?
Rowan Woodward and Hayden Moore. I think Woodward's tied for the league in goals right now, so hopefully he can keep that pace going.
Nice. So I saw that he got moved from Edmonton. I think,
we got him in the summer. Yeah.
Right. Cool. So that's a nice addition for you guys. What's the projection for you as far as where do you think this team can go? Are you playoff bound again for sure, or is maybe higher?
I think so. Yeah. With how we've been playing to start the year, I think the sky's the limit for this team. I think, we got so many new faces, and guys are only going to get better as the season goes on, and we still have a ton of injuries as well. So I think as guys come back into the lineup, we're only going up from here. So it's definitely an exciting season for sure.
That's cool. And what are your personal goals? Are you a guy that makes goals?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the biggest goal this year is showcase myself the best I can and try and earn a contract. But I'm not too focused on that. Just worrying about the season and trying to play my best every single game, and obviously lead this team as far as they can go, and just have the best season I can and help everyone else have the best seasons they can as well.
Are you metric driven at all? Do you have, I want to score 20 this year, or I want to get, whatever, 100 PIMs, or do you have any goals like that you set?
Not entirely. No, I mean, my dad, he kind of does that for me. He says, I expect you to get this. I expect you to get that. But, I'm never too focused on that. I'm just focused on one game at a time and just playing the best I can.
And how do you know that as a player? How do you judge at the end of a game? I think a lot of guys, well, I shouldn't say I think a lot of guys. Some guys have a process. Some guys, feel that if they got points, they had a good game. Some guys feel if they had a turnover, they had a bad game. How do you sit down after 60 minutes in the WHL and decide how you did? Yeah,
for me, it's not always about points. It's, how my overall game went. If I was good in the D zone, always made the right play on the breakout, didn't turn pucks over at the lines. That's kind of how I judge how my games go. I never want to get scored on. That's definitely a big indicator for me as well. But, it never comes down to points for me. Obviously, points are are huge, but those aren't the be all end all for me. It's more my overall game is kind of how I judge myself.
So plus minus is a big one for you?
Yeah, for sure.
Right. Are you a centerman?
No, I'm a winger.
You're on the wing. Yeah, the plus minus, it seems like, I mean, with analytics that stat has kind of gone away, but to me it's like it's easy. It's easy.
Mm-hmm.
If you're out there for a goal for, or if you're out there for a goal against, like whether you're a part of it necessarily or not. The old I had my guy coach, right? Like, yeah, I was off from him, but I had my guy. But I think it is easy. I mean, I think you're having an impact on the game if if you end up being a plus player at the end of the year. I think that's obviously a good sign, and it's a good ezy one for the younger guys to think about too, right? I mean, if you're always spending time in your own end and the puck's going in the net, something's going wrong. So I appreciate you sharing that. For you, another question that's been coming up, especially on the team I'm coaching now lately, is preparation and what that means. In the WHL, to play your 70-game season, there's a lot of games, a lot of nights. Consistency is a huge thing. You don't know who's watching you win, right? The coach is out watching you every game. He expects to have, a certain level of play and a certain standard for each player. How do you look at your preparation? When would you consider your preparation starts? And can you maybe walk us through what that is for you at 20 years old?
Yeah, I've kind of built my routine ever since I was 15, 16, and I've kind of stuck with that ever since. But, it's doing the same things every day for me. I'm not superstitious in any way. Like if I can't do them, then it's whatever. But, I like to have my routine built in. And for me, it starts in the morning, right after morning skate. I'll come up, get a good stretch in. I like to sleep at the same time, eat at the same time. And then, I get to the rink for game time. I usually park in the same spot and, eat at the same time, my pregame meal and everything like that. So I think it's just being comfortable, with what you're comfortable with. Everyone will prepare a different way. Some guys are loose. Some guys, they got the headphones on and they won't talk to anyone. But I think it's about finding what's right for you and what will get you ready to play that game that night.
Do you think about I'm going to lead this a little bit just because with what I do, and we were talking to our U18 team, that there's a physical preparedness, that I think a lot of guys kind of consider or think about, right? You need to warm your body up and be ready physically. Sometimes your legs don't always feel the same, right? So you might be things you need to do. Then there's like the mental preparedness. And in that way, I would say, routes, tactics, breakouts, maybe forecheck, PP, like those types of things, face-offs. And then there's like that other side of mental, which would be like the emotional preparedness. Because I know for me, like that was one I didn't even really consider officially, or at least consciously, until I was well into my pro years. And that's like, I didn't feel the same before every game, right? Like some days you're tired, some days you're not excited, some days you are excited, right? And like to find for me and to recognize that, okay, like I'm kind of down today from an energy perspective, from an emotional perspective, and then change my routine to, get more energy, right? To get more fired up instead of sitting in my stall yawning, which maybe what I might've done my first 2 years or when I was in junior, So do you have anything mentally or structurally, technically that you think about when it comes to your preparation or from an emotional side?
Yeah. Like, I'll always sit on the bench before every game and I'll, visualize, where I usually go on the ice and plays that I should make in certain situations. So when you do get on the ice, it just feels like second nature. And then on the emotional side of things, if I'm ever feeling a little tired or down, it's, trying to get, amped up, whether you're playing Sioux, you're jumping around a little bit more, or maybe you're grabbing smelling salts before the game or whatever it might be. So there's always little ways you can, prepare yourself a little bit more for the game and, amp yourself a little bit up. A little bit more if you need to do that as well. There's definitely lots of ways to do it.
Yeah, and for the players listening, like that is the skill of self-assessment and being honest with where you're at. Because remember, like what we're talking about is, Reg wants to be a pro, right? And to be a pro, you got to be consistent, and to be consistent, you got to be your best as often as you can. So how you feel physically, mentally, emotionally before the puck drops matters. So it is a responsibility that you need to be accountable to, and I think if we can frame it that way, now we can start thinking about, okay, now it's not just the routine that I have, but I know what I'm doing and I also know why I'm doing it. right? And I think that's the separation there is like, what am I doing and why am I doing it? And if you can check the boxes of those things afterwards and be like, yeah, well, I did this, or I went on the bike today because my legs were feeling like crap, and I spent a little more time on the face-off visualization because we ran a couple new plays this week that I wasn't familiar with. And yeah, I was kind of feeling down. So I made sure that I played some music louder and made sure that I was more vocal than I usually am just to get myself ready, right? Like that's kind of, I mean, obviously very simplified, but I mean, that's kind of the way players should be thinking. So less, I like how you talked about with the superstition side, like less superstition programming and more about what do I need, right?
Exactly.
Because every day is going to be different for what you actually need at the end of the day. So
Exactly.
When has nutrition and sleep have been like such buzzwords, like in like that whole side of the game, which I do think is super important. How has that changed for you in 5 years, if at all? Like, are you more dialed with that? Are you wearing your Whoop? Do you know how many hours you need and recovery and how has that infiltrated into the game?
Yeah, I'll say first off, I can't wear a Whoop. I can't deal with sleeping with that on. It just bugs me too much. But no, I think when I was my 17 year, I kind of dialed in on my nutrition a little bit more and took that a lot more seriously. And I do a lot of research and ask my trainers questions and stuff like that on what I should be eating. And I found that helped my game, a lot. And then on top of that, my sleep, I try to go to bed at the exact same time every single night. And, depending on if I get a little bit more time to sleep in, I'll obviously take that. But I try to wake up at a similar time every day as well. And just building in that morning routine, shower as soon as I get up and brush my teeth, eat. Like it's just, that just prepares your body a little bit more for the day, I find. So just building my morning routine was huge for me as well.
That's cool. This episode is also brought to you by Elite Prospects. Elite Prospects is the gateway to hockey. Online since 1999, EliteProspects.com is the #1 statistical hockey resource, serving over 1 million unique visitors weekly. It offers the most informative hockey player database on the web and has the most reliable transaction tracker available. And specifically for youth hockey players, EP is your very own online showcase to highlight your achievements and help secure hockey future playing opportunities. Coaches, scouts, and schools at every level of the game consider Elite Prospects their one-stop shop to discover future stars. They do have their verified profiles. They do have their premium profiles. My boys have them. It's a very cool way to see who is following your page, to be able to include your accurate height and weight, where you're from, hometown, etc., your personal profile picture. It's a great way to track your own statistics and for others to track what you are doing. As a bonus, as being a sponsor and I guess, well, yeah, sponsor is the right word, with the UMH 68, the people who play in my tournament get their tournament stats up and running on their player profile at Elite Prospects. Elite Prospects has been fantastic to work with. They're definitely involved in the youth and amateur aspect of the game, and are really growing their roots there. So big fan of Elite Prospects and what they're doing. By all means, go out and see what they're up to, and get your profile verified, or get a premium profile from them as well. So yeah, did the morning routine come by accident of realizing that it was more effective to be prepared, or was it something that like a performance coach taught you about, or how did that work for you?
Yeah, I just kind of felt like I was a little bit sluggish in the morning. So I kind of did a little bit of research and obviously listened to some different podcasts with NHL players. And they all said they were huge on morning routines and stuff like that. So I thought I'd give it a try for a couple weeks and see how I felt. And I just found I felt way better in the morning. I had a lot more energy, and it definitely helped me. So I still continue to do that, like right to this day now.
Good for you. Good for you. Yeah, one of the things I talk with players about is like those, those things that I'll call controllables, which is like attitude and energy, is like something that you need to come to the rink with. And if everyone focuses on how they come to the rink with those two things, like it totally changes. You talk about that culture that you're trying to develop there. Like that's the individual ownership that the collective benefits from, because like how you feel walking into the room. I don't know what time you guys practice, but if you have taken care of your business, you know what I mean, and you're not coming in with your hair combed by your pillow. You know what I mean? Like, and then those guys that are yawning in the corner, like there's just a different vibe about that. And I think when you get that culture and guys start taking that approach, right? That, hey, I'm going to be the fountain today, you know, not the drain, as Josh Stone said on one of my podcasts. Like it's tangible. You notice it.
Yeah,
you know?
for sure.
And then you start talking about the example that you're leading. You know, you have to be cognizant of that as a captain too, right? How are you showing up? So the fact that you have a good morning routine there. Talk to the younger athletes out there about this bedtime thing you're talking about and being consistent with that. How does that even work?
Yeah, I just find that you do feel better in the morning when you get a good 8-9 hours of sleep. So I always try to set a hard lock on, you know, when I put my phone away and when I end up actually going to bed. So I'll put my phone away, you know, 30-ish minutes before I go to bed and just kind of do my night routine, you know, just maybe read a little bit of a book if I have a bit of time, and that just kind of helps me calm down and it, you know, helps your body recover and you feel, you know, energized the next morning and you're ready to go.
I love hearing that. That's a big problem though. Like honestly, even at the pro level though, like for guys to figure out how and when to go to sleep, because there is so many distractions and there's no one there, especially guys playing junior, right? There's no one there telling you when to go to bed. The majority of guys, right? You have to be responsible for yourself. So you talk about the ownership there, and you know whether you want to be a hockey player or just play hockey, and I think that's part of it, right? Being accountable and having that standard. What would you say to anyone who's thinking about playing in the WHL? Like, what has your experience been like there? I mean, I assume I know the answer, but is this a league that you suggest guys should be striving to play in?
Yeah, I think so for sure. It's, you know, one of the best development leagues in the world for sure. So you get to play 68 games a year plus playoff and preseason. So you definitely have a lot of time to showcase your skill and show what you want to do. And you're practicing every day. You're not playing, and you get to still work out 2-3 times a week, working out after games. So I think it's the best league to develop you for that pro style of game. So I would recommend it to anyone that wanted to play hockey at a high level.
There's so much maturing that happens in the junior ages. Like I call them the formative years. Like you're going to remember this guaranteed, you know, more than you're probably going to remember your pro career and other aspects. Like, you know, being in that town during these years of your life are going to be memorable. But the guy that I'm talking to now is definitely different than the guy that showed up as a 16-year-old. Like, what do you think the league or even the sport has taught you that has allowed you to grow personally? Like, what's different about you now than when you showed up?
Yeah, obviously I've matured over the years, and you know there's a lot of people to thank for that. My coaches, my parents, my teammates, and everything like that. But I think the league just, you know, makes you mature in a way where you're playing 68 games. You know, you're getting home after a 7 o'clock game at 11, 12 at night, and you got to get up early in the morning the next day, and you got to get ready to play another game. So there's a level of maturity in that, and there's a level of accountability, you know, how you're taking care of yourself right after the game, the morning before the next one. And I think, you know, that just comes with time when you figure out your routines and everything like that, and being able to prepare for the next game. And, you know, you obviously come out a better player than you come into the league for sure.
Yeah. I like that responsibility aspect. I think that really teaches guys a lot. And with the school too. I mean, balancing school and a WHL season is not easy. I mean, I remember I was, you know, telling the old war stories to my boys, like with being in Spokane there, like, and we would play a lot of Wednesday night games that you'd be getting home 4 a.m, you know, and the expectation was you unloaded the bus, you got back to your billet's house, and you're at school at 8:30, you know, and that's just what you needed to do. And again, there was no one telling you to do it. And not that we were always perfect with it, but, you know, but that was the expectation. And I think from a mental toughness standpoint, you know, a lot of people would be, we got to get your 8 hours, you know, and that's where I kind of balance it, because I challenge the guys that I work with to be like, hey, you know what, you want to be dialed, right? You definitely want to be dialed. You want to take as much advantage of all these things out there that will help you with performance. But if you did get 4 hours sleep, I expect you to go out there and be a killer still.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you did have to eat McDonald's, you should go out there and still be a killer. So like that, I like that aspect of like from our era, and still the WHL still teaches that, but like where there is no excuses, right? Like you still have to go out there and do it. And I love that about our sport. Can you maybe talk about the mental toughness side of it for me? Because I know why it seems to be like that's something that you value as well.
Yeah, I mean, obviously our coach, he's pretty hard on that GP. He expects you to be at your best every single day, and he always talks about controlling the controllables, like you said, and you should be able to go 100% every single rep of every single drill. No matter how you're feeling, you got to work your hardest every single day, and that's how you get better on the ice and off the ice. So just kind of doing that every single day is definitely the most important thing, I think.
Anything else to add about Jeep? Like, I've heard nothing but good things about him, honestly, and I can't say that honestly about everyone, that coaches. But it sounds like he does things the right way. He demands the respect of the players, and he's a teacher as well. And I don't know, I just heard a lot of good things to him. Like, what's been your experience with him now into your second season?
Yeah, I gotta say he's an amazing coach. He expects a lot out of everyone, but he's obviously pretty hard on all the guys, but that's obviously because he cares about everyone, and he's super dialed in on nutrition as well. He talks about that a lot. He every time we go on a bus trip, and we stop at a gas station, he stops in the candy aisle and makes sure none of the young guys are eating any candy or anything. So that's pretty funny, but he's a great coach, like I said, and he just expects a lot out of guys, and he loves showing video, and he's not afraid to call guys out if they need to be called out. And obviously a lot of guys have a lot of respect for him. So he's been, super helpful for my development.
That's awesome. Yeah, it makes a difference, doesn't it? Hey, like the guy behind the bench. One of the things that I'm really valuing sort of where I'm at now, why I've done what I'm doing, is like I didn't really embrace that as much as a player, like how important that coach can be and could be, not only for the development, but also for your progression, and now when I'm working with players, I really encourage them to foster, the support and advice of those around them. I mean, you spoke earlier about, working with your trainers and what can I eat, what shouldn't I eat, even probably in the gym, and starting conversations with your coach. I think that should be something that is conscious, like use the support that's there. Ask, how do I get here? This is what I want to do. Because then you create a support team, somebody that's rooting for you. Is that something that comes to you naturally? For me, it didn't, right? For me to reach out, to ask, to start the conversation, I was always somebody that when it came to upper management, like I thought that they would start the conversation with me, and I wouldn't talk unless spoken to. How have you handled that away? Like, as far as did you have a strategy, or how do you deal with coaches and support staff?
Yeah, I think, obviously when I was younger, 15, 16, it was definitely a little bit harder and a little bit scarier. You don't want to make a mistake or ask a dumb question, but obviously as you grow up, there are no dumb questions, or learning from your mistakes is super important. So I think I kind of learned that as I got a little bit older, and obviously I started to ask a little bit more questions with Jeep and all our entire support staff, and that's only helped me from here.
Yeah, good for you. Any last words before I cut you off for any of the players out there that maybe would like to have a C on their chest one day and be a WHL longtime WHL veteran?
Yeah, I mean, just find your identity and stick with that. And when you're leading a team, everyone leads in different ways, whether you're a vocal leader or leading by example. So it's just finding the way you lead and being comfortable with that. And obviously, the captain's not the only guy leading the team. You got to have a great support staff with you as well, which we have here in Victoria, which has been, obviously super helpful. So I think that's the biggest thing for me is, just find the way you want to lead that team and go from there.
I'm going to put you on the spot for one last question. If you were to pick one thing about hockey that you love and your why, what would that be?
I gotta love the physical side of the game. That's how I've been playing ever since hitting hockey was a thing for me, and that's the most fun thing for me. When you can go in on the forecheck, finish your D-man and take the puck from them, that's all you need out of me. So that's my favorite part of hockey for sure.
Awesome. I love asking that question because guys automatically glow up. It's like you smile thinking about that. And just from a performance standpoint side, I can put my mindset coaching hat on for those out there. Like, that is one way we talked about preparing, like the emotional side of the game, is like actually thinking about the things that you frickin' love doing. It's not always scoring a goal, right? For Reggie, he just said, I love blowing a guy up in the forecheck. Like, him replaying those visions of him doing that and doing it again changes his energy, right? Changes the excitement level. So that's a little tool that you can use as far as, preparing for a game. Well, Reggie, I really appreciate you being on and taking the time and having the Victoria logo on the background. I know you wear it proud. It's done. They've been good to you, and you've been good to them. So I love seeing that loyalty there, and I wish you nothing but the best individually and for your group this year. I know you're going to be leading proudly.
Yeah, thank you. I was really happy to be on here and super excited. So thank you for having me on the podcast.
Cheers, man.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the conversation with Reggie and I. I really enjoyed having the talk. It's amazing how dialed these kids are to me now. The things, the bedtime routines and the morning routines, and the way they talk about recovery and the way they talk about preparation and all the stuff that. If you're going to be professional in today's day and age, if you want to give yourself the best opportunity for success, those are the things that you have to do. But it's just crazy for me to think 25 years ago that we weren't thinking that way. There wasn't much of a routine as far as when you're considering about how to play high performance. You just sort of showed up and you went to work and you figured out a way to get it done the best you could. And I kind of allude to that a little bit with Reggie. Like I do think, and it's something that I work with my players on, is how to find your routine, how to find the ability to give yourself the best chance of success. But sometimes we can get so wrapped up in that high performance equation that when we fall out of that equation, or if one of those pieces isn't there, that it all comes unwound. And that is where I think we can take a little bit of a throwback to the 90s when we weren't worried as much about the extra stuff. We were just worried about getting it done on the ice, and kind of that no excuses mentality, which was drilled into us from little guys. And I do think that there's a place for that still, like the no excuse, get her done, figure it out mentality. What time did you get in from the road trip? I don't care. You're going to school. What's wrong with your leg? I don't care. You're going to go play. Just that type of stuff. What'd you eat for pregame? We had pizza on the bus because we couldn't go, we couldn't get into the pasta joint. Oh, well, go get it done. And so it was always pushed back to you that it's just your responsibility to play your best. And not that we always figured that out, but that was the choice, right? That was what the expectation was, I should say. So it is something that I see with the younger players now, is that it's maybe a little easier to fall off the rails for things to not go our way, and then we seem to have excuses around us that this is why we're not playing well. Let's just find that kind of that old school mental toughness where, yes, we do want to align our high performance check boxes. Like, that is wise, that is professional, that is what we should be doing. But let's take pride when we look in the mirror that if one of those things is off, or if we didn't get a great sleep, or if we didn't get our pregame done right, or we might be a little bit sick, whatever the case may be, is that you're still somebody that goes and figures it out. And you are somebody that goes and gets the job done. And I think when we can combine both those worlds, now we truly have a monster on our hands, what I would call a mindset monster. So I think Reg is one of those mindset monsters. He's leading by example there in Victoria. He's doing a great job there. And by all accounts, he has 7 points in the first 3 games, to date this podcast. We'll see how the rest of the season goes for him, but it's awesome to see the offensive numbers up. And it's awesome to see him sitting there in front of the Victoria Royals logo, showing loyalty to that squad that brought him in as a 16-year-old. I love to see it. I wish nothing but the best for Reggie and the Royals this year. And until next time, you guys play hard. Keep your head up.